Israel warplanes strike Syrian army general HQ. And also, Hague Group signs joint statement implement legal measures against Israel. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Brendan Paul. Malaysia is strengthening academic ties with New Zealand through strategic collaboration between local higher learning institutions and leading universities in the country, particularly in the fields of green technology and renewable energy. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, who is currently on a working visit to the island country, said University Kuala Lumpur UniKL and University Polytech Malaysia UPTM have each formalised cooperation agreements with the University of Canterbury and 6 other top universities in New Zealand, including Victoria University of Wellington. He added the collaboration includes the implementation of twinning programs, credit transfers and joint research initiatives that will provide added value to both Malaysian students and lecturers. The Deputy Prime Minister explained the student sponsorships by agencies such as MARA, the Public Service Department, Petronas, government-linked companies and government-linked investment companies would be expanded to cover specialised fields not currently offered at local institutions, particularly in sustainable energy. In a separate ceremony, UniKL and the University of Canterbury also signed a letter of intent. Both collaborations encompass the implementation of joint research, mobility programs and professional development in the field of education. Israeli warplanes intensified their air campaign across southern Syria on Wednesday, striking the Syrian Army General Command Headquarters and the Presidential Palace area in central Damascus. Syrian health authorities reported that the strikes on Damascus left at least 3 civilians dead and 34 others injured. The Israel Defense Forces IDF issued a statement on the day, confirming it had launched attacks on Syrian regime's military targets in Damascus. The statement noted that in the afternoon, the IDF conducted airstrikes on the military headquarters in Damascus and a military target near the presidential palace. The IDF also stated that the Syrian regime used the headquarters to command operations and deploy troops to the Suwaida region in southern Syria. The strikes came after the collapse of a ceasefire between Syrian government forces and armed Druze groups in Suwaida, the heartland of the Druze community in Syria. The Druze are a religious and ethnic minority originating from Islam, living primarily in Syria, Lebanon and Israel, with smaller communities in Jordan and elsewhere. Israel carried out several waves of strikes in Damascus and Suwaida with the stated aim of preventing the Druze minority from being harmed. Meanwhile, an Al Jazeera reporter was running away to save himself while on air as a large explosion hit a building behind him.
شباب في عندنا قصف شباب قصف يا شباب خذونا على الهواء شباب قصف بسرعة يا شباب خذونا على اللايف.
Israel launched powerful airstrikes in Damascus, damaging the defense ministry and hitting near the presidential palace as it vowed to destroy Syrian government forces attacking Druze communities in southern Syria and demanded they withdraw. Meanwhile, a Syria TV news anchor was abruptly interrupted as an Israeli strike hit the city during a live broadcast. The attacks marked a significant Israeli escalation against the administration of interim President Ahmed al-Shara and came despite his warming ties with the United States and his administration's evolving security contacts with Israel. An emergency conference organized by the Hague Group drew to a close in Bogota on Wednesday, with several of the participating countries proposing measures to end Israeli attacks on Gaza. After the 2-day event, representatives of Colombia, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Iraq, Libya, Malaysia, Namibia, Nicaragua, Oman, South Africa, St. Vincent and the Grenadines signed a joint statement condemning Israel's actions in the occupied Palestinian territories and pledged to implement legal and diplomatic measures to stop them.
I believe what we did here yesterday and today is a turning point in the direction of not to tolerate the continuation of impunity and Israel to be above the law. We are beginning the process in which will be a massive wave of countries, of civil society organizations, of companies, of individuals, of all who cherish international law and justice to start taking practical steps in order to force Israel to stop the genocide against our people, especially in the Gaza Strip.
The document establishes 6 concrete measures which the signatory states committed to adopt in their national legal frameworks before 20th September 2025 and include the denial of arms to Israel. The documents also include a ban on ships transporting such arms and a review of public contracts for possible links to companies that benefit from commerce with Israel. The Hague Group, which aims to coordinate legal and diplomatic responses to Israel's alleged violations of international law in Gaza and other occupied Palestinian territories, saw only 12 of the over 30 countries attending the Bogota summit agree to the measures. Displaced Palestinians from Rafah rejected an Israeli scheme to move hundreds of thousands of already uprooted Palestinians to a so-called humanitarian city in Gaza, expressing their hope to return to Rafah and rebuild their homes. The scheme has led politicians to spar with the defense establishment, but officials say a practical plan has yet to be crafted. Even without a clear blueprint, opposition critics have denounced the proposal, some likening the suggested site to a concentration camp, which could lead to ethnic cleansing in the coastal enclave devastated by 21 months of conflict. Israel's top leader, Benjamin Netanyahu's administration has defended the project, saying it would offer civilians a safe haven, while further weakening Hamas' grip on Gaza. But it remains unclear whether it is a concrete government policy.
مدينة الخيام اللي بيزعم نتنياهو عملها وحبس الناس في معسكر اعتقال كبير ويتحكم في هواهم، يتحكم في مائهم، يتحكم في قوتهم، يتحكم في شبابهم، يتحكم في نسائهم، في كهولهم. احنا بدنا مدينة رفح ترجع كاملة، رفح الحدود المصرية الفلسطينية الخالصة، ما فيها أي تواجد إسرائيلي على حدودها.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei said the country is ready to respond to any renewed military attack, adding that Tehran was capable of delivering a bigger blow to adversaries than the one it gave during the 12-day Iran-Israel war.
ما از جنگ استقبال نکردیم. اینو همه بدونه. بله ما رژیم صهیونیستی رو سرطان میدونیم. رژیم آمریکا رو هم به خاطر پشتیبانی از او جنایتکار میدونیم. اما ما از جنگ استقبال نکردیم. ما به پیشواز جنگ نرفتیم. ولی وقتی دشمن حمله کرد پاسخ ما کوبنده بود. اینو باید همه توجه داشته باشن.
Israel and the US launched strikes on Iran's nuclear facility last month, saying that they were part of a program geared towards developing nuclear weapons. Tehran maintains that its nuclear program is purely for civilian purposes. Iran is under pressure to resume nuclear talks with the US as Washington and 3 major European countries have agreed to set the end of August as the deadline for a deal. However, Iran's parliament shared a statement on Wednesday saying the country should not resume nuclear talks with the US as long as preconditions are unmet. On a related note, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the foreign ministers of the UK, France and Germany agreed the August deadline in a phone call on Monday. According to the report, if no deal is reached by the deadline, the three European powers plan to trigger the snapback mechanism that automatically reimposes all UN Security Council sanctions that were lifted under the 2015 Iran deal. The snapback provision is set to expire in October, with the activation process taking 30 days. European powers reportedly aim to complete this process before Russia assumes the presidency of the UN Security Council in October. The report added that while US and European allies consider the snapback threat as a bargaining chip, Iran argued that there is no legal basis for it and has threatened to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in response. And in other news, President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that Coca-Cola had agreed to use cane sugar in its beverages in the US after his discussions with the company. Trump said in a post on Truth Social, he has been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States, and they have agreed to do so. A spokesperson for Coca-Cola said the Atlanta-based company will share details on new offerings soon and that it appreciates Trump's enthusiasm for its product. The Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again (MAHA) initiative, named for the social movement aligned with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has pushed food companies to alter their formulations to remove ingredients like artificial dyes. Kennedy has also been critical of the amount of sugar consumed in the American diet and said that updated dietary guidelines released this summer will advise Americans to eat whole food. The Trump administration has approved some states' requests to exclude soda from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, adding pressure to companies like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. Still to come, 4 killed in Bangladesh youth rally. Stay tuned.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
Welcome back. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto said on Wednesday US President Donald Trump was quite hard to negotiate with after the two countries reached a deal to reduce proposed US tariffs from 32% to 19%. Speaking to reporters after arriving in Jakarta, Prabowo told reporters Indonesia and the US had a mutual understanding of each other's interests and plan to continue negotiations. Indonesia has committed to purchasing 50 Boeing jets, 15 billion in US energy and 4.5 billion in US agricultural products as part of its trade agreement with the US.
Semua sudah kita hitung, semua kita berunding, ya. Kita juga memikirkan yang penting bagi saya adalah rakyat saya. Yang penting saya harus lindungi pekerja-pekerja kita. Walaupun kita juga punya sikap, ya. Ini tawaran kita nggak mampu memberi lebih. Tapi yang penting bagi saya pekerja-pekerja kita aman dan saya sangat optimis ekonomi kita dalam kondisi yang kuat, kondisi yang bagus, ya kan?
The deal is among only a handful reached so far by the Trump administration ahead of an August 1st deadline for negotiations. According to the U.S. Trade Representative, the world's fourth largest country by population and a member of G20 ran a goods trade surplus of $17.9 billion with U.S. in 2024. U.S. workers are building a new 11 kilometers taller secondary barrier to reinforce the steel mesh fence in the desert of southern New Mexico along the border with Mexico on Wednesday. According to a statement on the U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) website, these projects are expected to close critical gaps in the border wall and enhance border security operations. In June, U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Secretary Kristi Noem issued 3 new waivers for border wall construction, ensuring expeditious construction of approximately 58 kilometers of new border wall in Arizona and New Mexico. Border Patrol arrested 39,677 migrants in the El Paso sector, comprising the counties of El Paso and Hudspeth in the state of Texas and the entire state of New Mexico in the fiscal year to April, down 78% from the year earlier period. Britain has lifted a 5-year ban on Pakistani airlines, allowing them to apply to resume UK flights, just as Islamabad steps up efforts to privatize its national carrier, Pakistan International Airlines or PIA. The ban was imposed in 2020, days after Pakistan launched an investigation into the validity of pilot licenses issued in the country following a PIA plane crash that killed 97 people. The British High Commission said on Wednesday the lifting of the ban followed safety improvements by Pakistani authorities. The decision comes just months after the European Union took similar steps. While several private Pakistani airlines operate domestically and on regional routes, primarily to the Middle East, PIA has historically been the only carrier to operate long-haul flights to Britain and the European Union. The airline has long considered UK routes, including London, Manchester and Birmingham, among its most profitable and holds sought-after landing slots at London's Heathrow Airport that could become active again. PIA spokesperson said the airline was finalising preparations to resume UK flights in the shortest possible time and had submitted its proposed schedule. Violence erupted on Wednesday at a rally of Bangladesh's youth-led National Citizen Party in the southern town of Gopalganj, with 4 people killed and more injured. Deadly student-led protests forced longtime Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to flee to India in August last year. And since then, there have been delays over promised reforms, growing protests and political division. Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus, who took over as interim head, said in a post on X that members of the NCP, police and media were attacked during a peaceful rally on Wednesday, with cars vandalized and individuals assaulted. BBC News Bangla reported that 4 people were killed, while the local daily Prothom also said 9 were injured. Police and hospital officials did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Authorities has imposed a curfew to curb the protests, and the Awami League said on Facebook that one of its members had been killed by army gunfire. Canadian retailer Alimentation Couche-Tard said on Wednesday it was withdrawing its $47 billion takeover bid for 7&I Holdings, citing a lack of constructive engagement by the Japanese retailer. The surprise move marks the end of a year-long attempt by Circle K operator Couche-Tard to create a global convenience store giant by acquiring the company behind 7-Eleven. Couche-Tard said in a letter to its board of directors, there has been no sincere or constructive engagement from 7&I that would facilitate the advancement of any proposal, contrary to comments made publicly by 7&I representatives. It added they have engaged in a calculated campaign of obfuscation and delay to the great detriment of 7&I and its shareholders. Couche-Tard raised its offer to $47 billion from $38.5 billion in October last year, and in March offered to increase it further if the Japanese firm cooperated and revealed more financial information. It was also working with 7&I on a store sale plan in a bid to ease some regulatory hurdles. Couche-Tard's attempts at cementing the acquisition had gathered steam after a rival $58 billion white knight bid from 7&I Holdings' founding family ended after failing to get financing. US computer chip maker Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD, announced on Tuesday that it will soon resume exporting its MI308 artificial intelligence AI chips to China, following the US tech giant's NVIDIA's announcement of its plan to restart shipments to the country. By the end of the trading day, share prices for AMD and NVIDIA had increased by more than 6% and 4% respectively. AMD announced that as the US Commerce Department said that it would resume reviewing MI308 licenses, the company plans to resume exports of the chips to China once approved. Earlier that day, NVIDIA revealed that the US government had granted approval for its export license for the H20 chip, enabling NVIDIA to sell the chip in the Chinese market. Both the H20 and AMD's MI308 chips were specifically developed for China. However, earlier this year, the Trump administration imposed restrictions on the export of AI chips to China, citing national security concerns. At the time, AMD estimated that these export controls would result in an $800 million in lost revenue, while NVIDIA projected losses of up to $5.5 billion. According to NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, he predicted Chinese AI market scale could reach up to $50 billion by 2026, highlighting that missing this market would be a tremendous loss. Turkish helicopters and planes battled the wildfire in the country's northwest Tekirdağ province on Wednesday as the blaze entered a second day. 15 planes, 19 helicopters and dozens of fire trucks were working to contain the fire in the Sakoy district, adding that winds in the area were reaching up to 30 kilometers per hour, fanning the flames. The wildfire had earlier prompted the evacuation of 3 villages in the area and caused 4 people to be admitted to hospital. Greece and other Mediterranean countries are in an area dubbed a wildfire hotspot by scientists, with blazes common during hot and dry summers. These have become more destructive in recent years due to a fast-changing climate. Hundreds of wildfires have broken out across Turkey this summer, forcing tens of thousands of people to temporarily evacuate their homes across the country. 2 people were killed by the blazes in the western province of Izmir this month. A volcano erupted in southwest Iceland on Wednesday, belching smoke and flows of glowing hot yellow and orange lava, the latest in a series of outbreaks near the capital in recent years. Often referred to as a land of ice and fire, the North Atlantic island nation with its many glaciers and volcanoes has now experienced a dozen eruptions since geological systems on its Reykjanes Peninsula reactivated in 2021. Iceland's meteorological office said magma forced through the earth crust opened a massive fissure of length between 700 meter and 1,000 meter, with the first signs of the eruption giving scant warning. The office said that based on GPS measurements and deformation signals, it was likely that this was a relatively small eruption. Flights at Keflavik Airport in the capital of Reykjavik were not affected. Public broadcaster RUV said people had been evacuated from the Blue Lagoon, a luxury geothermal spa resort, and the nearby town of Grindavik. Experts have said the eruptions in the area could recur for decades or even centuries. Up next in sports, Erinchia Wuyik suffer shocking exit at Japan Open. Stay with us.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan penjimatan 5 bintang.
Former men's doubles world champions Erinchia Wuyik suffered a shock opening round exit at the Japan Open 2025 in Tokyo last night. The world number 2 pair fell 15-21, 15-21 in 30 minutes to professional pair Ong Yu-sin, Teo Yi in the Super 750 tournament held at Tokyo Metropolitan Gymnasium. It was sweet revenge for Yusin Yi, who finally broke their 3-match losing streak against the reigning Badminton Asia Championship champions in style. The unseeded pair will next battle either home pair Kenya Mitsuhashi Hiroki Okamura or American challengers Chen Ziyi Presley Smith in the second round tomorrow. In another All-Malaysian showdown, Man Wei Chong and T. Kai Bun took 42 minutes to subdue Wan Arif Wan Junaidi Yap Roy King 30-28, 21-12. Next, the 6 seeds will meet Chinese pair Huang Di Liu Yang, who ousted Thailand's Kitinupong Kedren Dechapon Puavaranukro 21-19, 21-16. Meanwhile, national top women's doubles pair Pearly Tan and Tina kicked off their campaign in convincing fashion by dispatching Bulgaria's Gabriela Stoeva, Stefani Stoeva, 21-16, 21-14. The third seeds are set to meet Taiwanese pair Xia Pei Chan, Hung En Zhu next, after they eliminated Americans Francesca Corbett, Jeannie Guy, 21-18, 21-14. And on to cycling. Jonas Abrahamsen of Norway won the 11th stage of the Tour de France as defending champion Tadej Pogačar hit the deck in the finale on Wednesday. Slovenian Pogačar crashed about 5 kilometers from the finish but was quickly back on his bike and did not seem hurt. Abrahamsen battled with Switzerland's Mauro Schmidt in the final stage, the pair having been part of an early 5-rider breakaway before Fred Wright, Mathieu Biogado and Davide Ballerini fell away. Stage 2 winner Mathieu van der Poel tried to make ground on the 2 leaders as the finish line neared but had to settle for third. Pogačar fell after hitting the back wheel of another rider, but his rivals Jonas Vingegaard and Remco Evenepoel sportingly waited for the Slovenian to catch up after he got back on his bike. Ireland's Ben Healy retained the leader's jersey. Following Tuesday's rest day, Wednesday's run was billed as a likely sprint finish with 70 points at stake in the sprint standings in Toulouse. The stage did, however, feature 5 small climbs along the route. And in football, Barcelona's teenage sensation Lamine Yamal posed with his new number 10 jersey on Wednesday during a ceremony marking his contract extension. Just 3 days after his 18th birthday, Yamal signed a new deal that will keep him at the Spanish champions until 2031. The winger, who played a key role in helping Barca win La Liga and the Copa del Rey with 18 goals and 25 assists in 55 matches, will inherit the club's historic number 10 shirt, previously worn by legends such as Diego Maradona, Ronaldinho and Lionel Messi. Asked about the responsibility of wearing the number 10, Yamal said that every player has their own history and that he will focus on enjoying the upcoming season.
De la meva vida. Al final, des dels 7 anys que porto aquí, és la meva casa. Jo crec que per tots els nois de la Masia és un somni arribar al primer equip i jo estic complint i a seguir treballant.
Yamal celebrated his coming of age on Saturday with a star-studded event. And that's it from us. A recap of our headline: Israel warplane strikes Syrian Army General HQ, killing 3 civilians. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or Soloran Berita RTM for more. And if you missed it, you can always stream us again online on RTM Click's website and mobile application. Till then, I'm Brendan Paul. Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Thank you for the company and take care.